When we think of Vikings, images of fierce warriors, long ships cutting through icy waters, and relentless raids come to mind. But there was one Viking who stood above the rest, one who transcended myth and became a legend. His name, Ragnar Lothbrok. Ragnar wasn't just a man of violence and conquest. He was a thinker, a visionary, and most importantly, a kingmaker. The question is, what can we learn from his rise and fall? Stick around because this story holds lessons that go far beyond the Viking age. And no, I'm not just here to glorify a guy who spent half his life pillaging. I mean, who wouldn't want to know how to build an empire with axes and long ships, right? But here's the truth. Ragnar Lothbrok's story isn't just about brute force, it's about strategy, timing, and knowing when to play the long game. By the end of this video, you'll discover how one Viking's ambition could inspire your modern pursuit of greatness. Number 1. Ragnar's humble beginnings. Our story begins not in a royal court or a mighty fortress, but in the wilderness. Ragnar Lothbrok wasn't born into wealth or power. He was a farmer like many of his fellow Vikings, struggling to survive in a harsh, unforgiving world. But there was one thing that set Ragnar apart: ambition. He was not content to till the land and live a quiet life. He believed that the Norsemen were destined for more, much more, and that belief was his first weapon. But imagine the fear Ragnar must have felt standing on the edge of uncertainty. The what-ifs that cross every mind when stepping into the unknown. He didn't have wealth or armies backing him. What he had was a vision, and sometimes that's all you need to change the world. Now ask yourself, are you letting fear hold you back? Because what Ragnar's story teaches us is that greatness often begins with a simple step. But the road wasn't easy for Ragnar, and the next chapter in his journey would test his will like never before. And no, his next challenge wasn't finding a Wi-Fi signal in 800 AD, chuckle. It was much, much worse. Number 2, the first raid on England. Ragnar's name first spread like wildfire after one bold move: his raid on Lindisfarne, an English monastery in 793 AD. Up until that moment, the Vikings had stayed close to home. No one had dared to cross the dangerous seas to foreign lands, let alone launch an attack. But Ragnar, he saw opportunity where others saw danger. With just a few ships, Ragnar led the charge, seizing riches and resources from a monastery that had never seen an attack like this. It wasn't just about gold, it was about proving that he could do the impossible. This is where excitement and strategy come into play. He didn't strike blindly. He picked his target carefully. He saw that England was ripe for conquest, rich and unprotected. His raid wasn't just an act of war, it was a statement. And here's where it gets real. Most people think success comes from playing it safe, but Ragnar understood that sometimes you have to seize the moment. You have to recognize when the conditions are just right for you to strike and go for it with everything you've got. But what happened after this legendary raid? Well, let's just say the price of greatness comes with its own challenges. Who wouldn't want to be a Viking king after that? I mean, all the glory and none of the paperwork, right? Number 3, the rise to power and betrayal. After his victories in England, Ragnar's reputation soared. He became not just a warlord, but a king. He gathered a following, earned the loyalty of his warriors, and expanded his influence far beyond the Viking territories. But with power comes betrayal. Here's where Ragnar's story takes a darker turn. As he grew stronger, so did the ambitions of those around him. His own brothers turned against him. His allies began to question his leadership. There's a lesson here. Even when you rise to the top, you will face those who envy your success. Ragnar's greatest enemy wasn't on the battlefield, it was in his inner circle. And just like in modern life, the higher you climb, the more you have to guard your back. And here's the urgency. How do you prepare for betrayal when you don't know where it's coming from? Ragnar couldn't predict the moment his closest allies would turn, but he was always ready for it. And now you must be ready too, because when you're at your peak, that's when the real challenges begin. Ragnar Lothbrok's story is more than just blood and battle. It's a story of ambition, seizing the moment, and facing betrayal. His life teaches us that true power doesn't come from a sword. It comes from vision, timing, and knowing how to handle the trials that come with success. You may not be crossing oceans to raid monasteries, I hope, but the same principles that guided Ragnar can guide you today. Ambition, timing, and resilience. These are the qualities that build not just kingdoms. If you're ready to dive deeper into the lessons Ragnar can teach us about compounding your efforts for long-term success, click here to watch my next video on the power of compounding. Your wealth, like Ragnar's empire, can grow beyond what you imagine.